Where would you be the safest if a global war broke out?
Recent events made it clear that war is probably never ending. It was utopic to think otherwise, but there were hope with nuclear threat, increased economic ties, making war less likely. Well, between what's happening in the Middle East, in Africa, or in Europe, many of those hotspots could become the starting point of a major conflict, even if unlikely. Now, where would you like to be if it begins suddenly? First, if you are in a NATO country and Russia, China, Iran, and all of those red states, you will likely to be involved in some way or another. Some are more plausible than others, but conflicts tend to degenerate. If an outright war breaks out between NATO and Russia or China, some others might take advantage of the situation. Another scenario is a war between Pakistan and India. The two countries often fight each other in the Kashmir region. The risk of escalation is very high, making it one of the most unsafe regions. Expecting a global war to stay in the conventional aspect and not to go nuclear is either a foolish take or very optimistic. If you are in the red zone, your country is either likely to be involved or one that is already at war or suffer very high crime. Orange, you are probably going to meet the same fate in some sort of escalation in the following weeks or months. Now, in purple are the countries that I consider so close to the fighting are in a strategic geographic position, implying that they will surely get hit. For example, Switzerland. I highly doubt that radiation will stop at the border. And if all countries next to it suffer nuclear assault, Switzerland is for sure better than its neighbors, but will suffer tremendous consequences because of it. Meaning that while not dying instantly, you will probably have a rough time there. Now, in green is where you are safe, or should be, at least in the short term. So mostly South America and Africa. There was a treaty signed in 1947 called the Inter-American Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance, which implied to defend a member against an outside attack, which includes the US, but the treaty is heavily criticized nowadays. Some members left, Mexico denounced it, and the US refusal to help Argentina in the Falkland War called into question the effectiveness of it. Then there is Africa. You'll probably be safe from a nuclear attack or direct involvement in the war, but local conflict could spark and therefore making it okay, but not the optimal continent to be in. And depends where also, better be south of the Sahara. Now both are good places in the short term, but it could soon turn into a nightmare, as if the war is big enough and is in this scenario, it will provoke a nuclear winter. This will surely be a global matter, but Africa is already quite unstable for most places. And South America is suffering from high crime rates, stagnation, corruption, making it a good nest for chaos when food shortage is going to hit. Especially in Africa, very dependent on foreign food imports. This situation also applies to countries like Indonesia, Philippines, and so many other very populated nations. So Africa and South America, not the worst, but far from a nice place. New Zealand could be a very good place to be in. It's an isolated island, sparsely populated, but big enough to sustain agriculture. But it really depends on whether it gets involved or not. It is a nuclear-free zone in theory, but due to its close ties to the US or Australia, it might be involved. But if we assume New Zealand stay out of it, it's one of the best places. You will still have to deal with the crash of global economy, nuclear winter, but the island is quite big, making agriculture possible and sustainable for its remaining population. At least when growing crops could resume after a few years. Other spots are worth mentioning, like Iceland, but it cannot really sustain agriculture and it's pinned between Europe and North America. The pros are probably for fishing, assuming they are still eatable.